Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Board of Retirement meeting. Today is Wednesday, December 6th, 2023, and the time is 9:22 a.m. Apologize for the late start. Let's go ahead and go through the staff announcements.
Thank you, Chair Kehoe. This meeting is being held virtually and in person, so I will do a roll call of trustees to confirm attendance. Trustee Greenwood will not be joining us today. Trustee Gray? Here. Trustee Harris?
Here.
Trustee Santos?
Present.
Trustee Sanchez?
Here.
Trustee Oakham? He'll be participating shortly. Trustee Robbins?
Here.
Trustee Green?
Here.
Trustee Knox?
Good morning, I'm here.
Trustee Bernstein?
Here.
And Chair Kehoe.
Present.
Staff participating in the meeting include CEO Santos Kryman, Deputy CEO Louis Lugo, Assistant Executive Officers JJ Popowich and Laura Guglielmo, CIO John Grable, Chief Counsel Stephen Rice, Senior Staff Counsel Frank Boyd, Interim Senior Staff Counsel Elaine Salon, and Staff Counsel Jessica Rivas, Legislative Affairs Officer Barry Liu. Senior staff and managers participating today include Carly Natoya, Tatiana Bayer, Kathy Delino, Chat Arande, Ted Granger, Cassandra Smith, Louis Gittins, Vincent Lim, Ricky Contreras, Tamara Caldwell, Vicki Neely, Carrie Wilson, Hernan Barrientos, and Ricardo Salinas. LACERA's medical advisor, Dr. Glenn Arisman, Fiduciary Counsel Ashley Dunning, Allison Callaghan, and Julia Botizatu. Trustees, please use the raise your hand Zoom option to be placed in the queue. At this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute their mics until you are ready to speak. And now we may proceed with the agenda.
Great, thank you. And just a reminder, Mr. Harris and Mr. Green are going to be remote today, so we're going to be doing all votes via voice, a roll call. Okay, next item is our Pledge of Allegiance, and for the first time here in history, I'm going to ask for two to lead the pledge because we're having two outgoing board members. So, Mr. Santos and Mr. Bernstein, can you please both lead us in this pledge?
Please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the last time, justice for all.
I will miss that, Mr. Santos. So I'll miss that. Okay, we'll have much more to say about both Herman and Alan towards the end of the meeting, but let's go ahead and get started. We have our procedures for the teleconference meeting. We do have two AB 2449. Do we need any legal report outs or anything? Or perfect. So we have two trustees attending via AB 2449 via just cause excuse, and that is Mr. JP Harris and Mr. Green. Next item of business is our approval of the minutes of the November 1st, 2023 meeting.
So move.
Second.
It is moved and seconded. And please vote.
Mr. Bernstein?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Green? Okay. Mr. Kehoe? Mr. Kehoe?
Oh, aye. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Knox?
Right.
Mr. Oakham? He'll be participating shortly. Mr. Robbins?
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez? And Mr. Santos.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Okay, thank you. Next item is our public comment. We've had no requests beforehand. Any today?
We did receive a written public comment on behalf of Janine St. Hill, applicant number 2662C. It was received and will be part of the meeting record.
Okay. And no other requests here today.
Correct.
So we will go ahead and move on with our executive update, and that's our All-Stars and JJ.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everybody. Our All-Stars are staff members who we recognize who have gone above and beyond in helping deliver a great member experience or to help their fellow staff members deliver a great member experience. So please join me in congratulating Roberta Van Nortrick, May Zhang, Maria Calderon, Louis Gittins, and our web watcher was Veronica E. Martinez, and a ride share winner was Liliana Ronquillo. So thank you very much. Appreciate you.
And let's move on to our member spotlight.
All right, so please join me in taking a moment to recognize and celebrate the members selected for this month's Member Spotlight. Our Spotlight program is all about recognizing the hardworking members who serve the constituents of LA County, to celebrate their contributions to our community, and to provide us a moment to reflect and remember on why we do what we do, is to serve our members. So this month, our spotlight shines on Olga Fruk, who has been a custody assistant in the Sheriff's Department for 35 years. And her entire career was in the Sheriff's Department, serving that. And what strikes me is this, which really speaks a lot about the type of person that Ms. Frug is, and that is that, she spent her time making sure that she treated everybody, the inmates, with respect while they were going through, their difficult time in their lives. And that speaks volumes for somebody to do that in that situation. She's looking forward to retiring in the next 6 years or so, and she's going to pursue her passions, which is fitness and classes like Zumba. And also she's looking forward to traveling and cycling and watching movies, which I personally love to do. So thank you very much, Ms. Frug, for your service to the county. We appreciate you greatly.
Outstanding. Now that brings us to our CEO report. Mr. Santos.
Yes, Chair Kehoe, trustees, good morning, staff and guests. Wanted to provide a very brief CEO report. Wanted to bring you up to speed with what we're doing in terms of strategic planning and development of action plans. So we have been meeting on a regular basis since the offsite, the management offsite, and we've identified the individuals or the executive sponsors and the senior management leads that will be taking care of preparing action plans moving forward so that we can effectively execute on the plan that was approved by the Board of Retirement. Our plan is, we anticipate to have quarterly updates for you beginning in April, in terms of what our progress is, what the plans are, who's doing what, and the various timelines that we've identified for these things, these action plans to be completed. And so we're really excited about that. I know that we also have been meeting with the senior management team in the development of what I call a leadership pipeline document that identifies all the skills and the softer skills that are required in order to navigate your career path at LACERA. And so the team has put something together. They're in the process of finalizing it. They'll be making a presentation to the executive team who has not seen the document. And I know that they're very, very curious about it. And we have conversations about it on a daily basis. When do I get to read it? And I said, you'll get it when you get it, as soon as it's finished. So presentations will be made to the executive teams. We'll make some adjustments to it based on the input from the executive teams. And then we're looking forward to also presenting it to the full Board of Retirement in the not too distant future, probably sometime in February. That's pretty exciting stuff for us. It is a little different than what we have done in the past, where we really had a list of projects that we wanted to complete. Now we're being a little more strategic in nature and more methodical in our approach in making sure that we execute on these plans and we move the organization forward. And so I'm pleased, quite frankly, with the enthusiasm and the urgency, quite frankly, that the staff members have demonstrated over the last couple of months in terms of making sure this gets off the ground. I also, there's a lot of recruit updates. I wanted to let you know that we're continuing to work with Mr. Grable and Mr. Perez on trying to find individuals to join his group. I know that there are a couple of interviews that are ongoing. I'm hopeful that Mr. Grable and Mr. Perez and the team will make a selection soon in terms of a senior investment officer in real estate, I believe is what we're looking at this point. Also, we've been working with Mr. Rice in trying to identify candidates. We've interviewed one candidate all the way through that is being considered. And then there's another candidate that we're going to be interviewing next week, I believe Monday. And so we're looking to solidify and round out Mr. Rice's team as well. So in the meantime, the investment team and the legal team are doing an outstanding job making sure that things are getting accomplished. And I appreciate all of their efforts. So I'm gonna break a little bit. We made some internal hires, promotions that I'd like to pass the mic over with the chair's indulgence to Mr. Popowich and Ms. Guglielmo so that they can go ahead and introduce some of the division managers that we've selected and some other key positions that we've managed to hire. So with that, Mr. Popowich.
Thank you very much. So I'm really excited because this is the first time in many years we've had a full leadership team. And so I am pleased to announce the following promotions. Tatiana Bayer. Tatiana, if you make yourself known, there you go. Tatiana has been in our retiree healthcare division for over 2 years, most recently overseeing the processing or the back office operations of retiree healthcare. And so now she will be the division manager of member services. She brings with her a real care and dedication and love for taking care of members. And I look forward to great things from Tatiana. So thank you very much, Tatiana, for taking that role. And then I'm also pleased to announce that Tamara Caldwell will be assuming the responsibility for our division, our Disability Retirement Services division. So the board trustees know that Tamara has filled in for Ricky on several occasions, has been an integral part of that division. She oversaw the intake area most recently, but also really truly instrumental in the case management and implementation, which turned out very successful, and also in the online disability application. And so she will be taking over responsibility for disability retirement services. So thank you very much, Tamara. And then I'd like to announce that Louis Gittens has been promoted to division manager of our benefits unit. Louis has been for the last year serving as the interim division manager for that division and has done a tremendous job. He's also pretty much instrumental and the founding leader of our process management group in benefits, which has been a group that really has served as business analysts and working to improve the efficiency of our operations and the collaboration and working together with the other member operations group divisions. And so very pleased to announce that Louis Gittens is now officially division manager. And with that, I'll turn it over to Laura.
Thank you, JJ. The hardest part of the job, right, is finding the button. I'm going to take a detour off from our division managers for a moment to announce some promotions and appointments that we made in the systems division. So last month we announced the promotion or the appointment of a new staff member, Ganesh Gopanapalli, to be one of the information technology managers 2 in the systems division, overseeing the business solutions team. So I'm not going to go into Ganesh's background again, but Ganesh is in the background. And we are quite excited to have him as part of the team, and he is making himself invaluable already. So we're excited about that. Next, I'm really excited to announce the promotion of Sami Bong. Sami's also been promoted to the position of Information Technology Manager 2, where he will be overseeing our infrastructure team. He's actually been in this role on an interim basis for quite some time. So we are excited to make that permanent. The infrastructure team is responsible for managing and maintaining the foundational technology components and resources that support LACERA. These responsibilities include network management, server administration, storage management, virtualization and cloud management, on-premises data center operations, and user support, and the administration of our enterprise collaboration tools. So Sami has been in this position for the last 3 years in an acting capacity. And during that time, he has really transformed the service delivery and change management process within the systems division. His IT background and internal audit background have been very unique to help us really improve our processes here at LACERA, and has helped to lead a high-performing technical team to work collaboratively with the information security officer as well. So we are very excited to make this position permanent. So congratulations, Sunny. And one more information technology manager 2 promotion. We'd like to announce the promotion of Celso Templo Jr. To this position, and he has been and will continue to oversee our project management office. The PMO really provides the portfolio and project management for new technology projects. So this is where our projects are beginning. His team gets these projects started, and then they get passed on for once they've been implemented to either infrastructure or network. The PMO plays that critical role as ensuring LACERA effectively manages, implements, and executes on enterprise-wide projects. And under Celso's guidance, several projects have been successfully implemented and transitioned. Several more will be implemented in the next couple of months. So this has been very exciting, and our demand for more and more automation is higher than ever. To ensure the standardization and consistent user experience, Celso and his team created a PMO playbook, a framework which will be used by his team to manage projects, and that playbook will evolve as we learn and grow. And we are confident in his leadership and the role that he will play as we mature our PMO and the furtherance of LACERA's strategic priority, innovation through technology. So congratulations, Celso. Next, I want to announce the transfer of Ricky Contreras. So Ricky has been appointed to be the division manager for our administrative services division. That position has been vacant and filled on an interim basis for the last couple of years. Ricky comes from us from Disability Retirement Services. As you know, she's been there since 2010. So she's given us 13 years in DRS. During that time, I think you all know, especially this board, how much the confidence of the board has changed, improved in how we handle our disability retirement services. She's been really instrumental in that. During her tenure, she has also dramatically improved the staff morale within that division, increased transparency, professionalized operations, and really effectively communicates to all of our stakeholders. Prior to joining LACERA, Ricky had 10 years of management experience with the counties of Orange and Riverside, where she honed her servant leadership style, as well as her expertise in a wide variety of administrative work, including human resources, benefits administration, organizational development, risk management, staff training and development, employee relations, budget development and monitoring, and records management. She also established an award-winning new return to work program for one of the counties. So we are excited to see how Ricky will further mature the work of the Administrative Services Division and ensure a consistent and high-quality service to LACERA's business divisions while supporting and building her team over the next few years. So we are excited about that change. And I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to acknowledge Roberta Van Noordrijk. Roberta has been serving as the interim Administrative Services Division manager for, since 2021. And actually, management would like to acknowledge Roberta, and we have a certificate of appreciation. So I'm going to go up to the big mic and present this to Roberta. Thank you. You turn it on for me. Okay, I'm gonna read from this for a moment. So, Roberta, I'm sorry nobody likes to be up here, but you've been great. So I just want to read from this for a moment. Roberta Van Nortrick has served as the interim division manager for the Administrative Services Division of LACERA from July 2021 through November 30th of this year. Roberta was asked to step in immediately on an emergency basis, and she did not hesitate. Neither she nor management at that time expected the interim appointment to last more than a few weeks or maybe a month or two. But that did not stop Roberta from making a significant positive impact on the division and the organization during her tenure. And we want to point out some of her accomplishments. So during her tenure, Roberta led the Administrative Services Division through tremendous innovation and automation, implementing the new hardware asset management system, the automated budget management software solution known as Questica Budget, and enterprise contract lifecycle management solution known as Cobblestone. In addition, Roberta played a pivotal role. It collaborated with the Financial and Accounting Services Division and the Systems Division, contributing towards the soft launch of our automated payroll purchasing software, AP Certify. Roberta played a pivotal role in advancing LACERA's disaster recovery and business continuity readiness, supporting tabletop exercises and updating our business continuity plans. She oversaw the renovation of our 7th floor office space, which is really ready to move in. We're excited about that. Providing project management and offering creative solutions to ensure that LACERA's business users' needs would be met now and for the foreseeable future. Roberta will continue to serve LACERA in her role as training coordinator assigned to the Human Resources Division, where she's going to utilize her talents and capabilities to help promote, lead, and implement LACERA's strategic priority, investing in people. I think you all know that we have a lot of challenges in this area, and so we're really excited to use Roberta's leadership here in this area to help us advance this strategic priority. Roberta exemplifies the servant leader, putting her staff needs, members' needs, and the organization's needs first. For these reasons and more, the executive staff would like to recognize and express our deep appreciation and respect to you, Roberta, for your excellent service. So, and Roberta knows how much I've appreciated her, and she's been a tremendous asset for me coming into the organization, and she really knows the organization extremely well. Her care and class is amazing and really an inspiration to us all. So, yeah. Thank you again, Roberta.
So I know this is a long CEO report, but if you'll indulge me, I just wanted to say that to comment that all of the individuals that were promoted, there was a very wide net that was cast to find the best. There were a lot of internal candidates, there were a lot of external candidates, and I think that the staff that were promoted did an excellent job in their interviews. They did an excellent job in understanding LACERA, and I believe that they're going to provide great service to LACERA in the future. So the only thing that I can tell them is that, you know, whatever got you here, whatever success you have now, are not going to be good enough to get you to that next level. And so our expectation is that you're going to perform way above your current performance now, and your responsibilities are going to change. And so with that, I commit to you that we're going to make sure that you provided the resources that you need to be successful. We're anticipating bringing on some mentors for you all and some training, and because ultimately your success is really the success for all of our members. And so I wanted to make sure that I congratulate you on your appointment, but the job is just beginning. And so good luck to you all, is what I have to say. And then I believe that, Bonnie, if I'm correct, do we have there's a couple of other people that we'd like to point out and recognize as well. The executive and management team and the staff wanted to recognize Mr. Bernstein. I know that this is your last the last regular meeting. I don't know if there's going to be a special meeting that's going to be called. Maybe we'll just call one just to bring you in anyway.
What is it, AB 2429? I'll be on the beach, sure. With Sherman.
But I just wanted to make sure that we listed all of the great work that you did, your tenure, and then all of the committees that you chaired, the board of retirement times that you were in the leadership positions. And so it's not just that you gave, you decided to serve, but it's that you actually took a leadership position as well, and you've taken on more responsibilities as you saw LACERA needed, right? And so one of the things that I wanted to thank you for just personally is that when I interviewed for the job, I interviewed with everyone, and I was driving home. Actually, I was driving back into the office, and I was on the 110 freeway, and it was stuck in traffic. And this is after I had done the interview with you all. And I got a phone call. I was on the phone with my wife explaining, well, I think things went pretty well. The interview was good. She goes, well, how was the body language in the room? Kind of talking about that. So I think it was pretty positive. And she said, well, what do you think? I said, I have no idea. And then I got a phone call, and I'm on the 110 freeway, and it's Mr. Bernstein and Mr. Kehoe on the line. And they said, Santos? I said, yes. Says, oh, this is Alan Bernstein and Sean Kehoe. And I was in the middle of the freeway, hung up with my wife, got the phone, and then you offered me the job. And I always appreciated that phone call and the graciousness that you offered the job and the enthusiasm that you had for the organization. It really came out. And so I appreciate the opportunity. I know that it hadn't been for everyone in the room, and the leadership that you all provided during that time, I probably wouldn't be here. So I just wanted to say thank you from a personal perspective for that. And so I wanted to make sure that people understood your contribution to the organization, and we can't thank you enough. And as a member, I just want to say thank you very much. I know it took a great deal of time, and your wisdom and your guidance really made LACERA a better place. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
And then Mr. Santos, thank you as well on behalf of the executive team, the management, and the staff. Just wanted to make sure that we also showed your dedicated service over, how many years is it? It's a long time. Both of you, actually. So I just wanted to recognize you and to thank you for your guidance as well, and your leadership as well, and your willingness to go above and beyond for not only our active members but also our retirees, and both in your role as in the investment. And I know that Mr. Bernstein, you also served on the board of investments as well. And so I just wanted to make sure that we recognize. And the only story I can tell you, I go back to the interview that I had with you all, and I think the questioning that I had during my interview, the hardest questions came from yourself and Trustee Gray. Felt like I didn't know if I was a witness or a,
Good summary.
but it was very, very nice to see that you were able to voice your opinions with a great deal of professionalism, and all of the questions were right on point, and it was always in the best interest of the members. And you were looking for someone that could lead the organization, and you had specific things that you really wanted to make sure that I was aware of as we move forward. And so I also thank you for the opportunity to serve as the CEO. I know that, but that it's been a great 4 years with all of my trustees, quite frankly. But I just wanted to thank you, and I wanted to recognize you as well. I know that I could have saved this for good of the order, but I'll let the others shower you with kind words at that point. So thank you both very, very much. Okay. With that, that's my report.
Perfect. Any questions for the CEO's report? Mr. Santos.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Kryman, for your kind words. But the business have to go on. So here we go.
Uh-oh.
Just,
Let me get my pen up.
probably my final questions to you from the Board of Retirement. So one question that I have is if you can provide us an update regarding the litigation, the ongoing litigation between us and the LA County, and specifically as to whether or not you've been able to ascertain support from other 1937 Act counties. So that's one question I have. The other question that I have is I noticed the work that the staff has been doing day in and day out, even though we are on the staff, because we have a lot of vacancies, and I just hope that those employees who are pulling double duty are being recognized economically and otherwise out of class pay or whatever is the proper method to recognize its employees. But nevertheless, from my perspective, I thank you for the work that you do and the fact that you go above and beyond your duties is admirable, and I respect that. And please continue to do your work.
Right. Thank you. Through the chair, I'd be more than happy to give you an update on the litigation. So the reply brief has been completed that we are presenting to the courts. We're going to intend on filing it on Thursday. I think I've read the document several times. I think it's a very strong document, wonderful arguments, has a really good answers to the issues that were raised by the county. So I'm pleased with the document. In terms of receiving support from our Cyril partners agencies, we were successful in securing Alameda County to provide an amicus brief. San Bernardino County also provided a amicus brief, and we're in the process of putting Alameda and Fresno County together so that they can talk about submitting an amicus brief as well. So Fresno County is still going to present their amicus brief to their board, I was told, on the 20th of December. And I believe the deadline for the amicus brief to be filed is the 21st of December. So it's going to be a very, very quick turnaround. And so we're still working on making sure that those get filed on time. I can tell you that it was, there was a lot of lobbying that was going on, trying to get that support. People originally were in favor of it. They believe in our cause. But they just didn't feel that they could move forward, or their boards decided that they would rather pass and not file an amicus brief. But we were successful in getting at least 2 Cyril agencies. The unions were very, very supportive. County Coalition of Unions, POPA, ALADS, the firefighters union, they stepped up immediately. I was really pleased with the support that we received from them. So we made several presentations to them to make sure that they had all of the facts, and they're in the process of finalizing their amicus briefs as well. And so I think we're in good stead. Hopefully, I believe we're trying to get to the courts to be heard on March, April. Is it possible? Yeah. Hopefully, first quarter, second quarter of next year. So that's where we are in terms of your question about recognizing staff that are are going above and beyond. We do have a policy that we do follow. Those individuals that are deserving of out-of-class bonuses or additional responsibility bonuses are vetted, and they are approved when they're appropriate. And so we do recognize that. And I think, that Roberta is a very, very good example. We wanted to make sure that we recognize her for all of her hard work as the interim basis. And so it's important for us to recognize our staff. And I think we do a good job of making sure that we say thank you on an ongoing basis and display that gratitude that I think staff really deserve moving forward. So those are answers to the two questions.
Thank you very much for that. And I want to recognize you for the work that you were doing at SACRS. I think it's important for my colleagues. When we go to conferences, this is the opportunity that we have to talk to other trustees from other systems regarding our issues. And of course, you want to hear their issues as well. That was key. Vivian and I made a presentation to many of the trustees at SACRS, where pretty much I begged them to support us and to request their staff to place on the agenda the fact that we are fighting for our independence here and potentially could impact them at some point.
Right.
So I think it's important that we all work as a team. But again, I want to recognize you for the tremendous work that you did at SACRS. I saw you talking to different people from different systems. So the work doesn't stop here. It continues when we go out and participate in different organizations. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Additional questions for the CEO? Seeing none. Okay, we're going to move on to our disability retirement applications on consent calendar. After our introduction music.
It's a walk-up. That's a walk-up song.
That'd be really.
Okay, so our first item is our consent calendar safety SCDs application 215E through 243E. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, let's please do a roll call vote.
Mr. Bernstein,
Aye.
Ms. Gray, Mr. Green, Mr. Green.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Mr. Knox.
Aye.
Mr. Oakham.
Aye.
Mr. Robbins. Mr. Sanchez. Mr. Santos.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you. And before we go on, I don't normally do this, but I will say one of the names on this list was a deputy who was injured in the line of duty and was fortunate to survive. And so unfortunately, it's a loss for us that he is retiring, but his service to the community will never be forgotten. He was in Compton. Him and his partner were both in Compton and were shot by individual, and both of them severely injured. Ultimately, one is still on the department, and the deputy service. He was just recognized with a award of valor with the sheriff's department a couple of months ago. So we appreciate him and everything, and I wish him Godspeed in his retirement, his unfortunate early retirement. Okay, moving on to page 3, our consent calendar for the fire department SCDs. This is application 1760B through 1766B. I'll need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Let's please vote.
Mr. Bernstein,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Santos.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you. Now we're moving on to our general member SCDs. This is going to be page 5 and 6, application 2658C through 2681C. I'll need a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Let's please vote.
Mr. Bernstein,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Santos.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Great, thank you. So that moves us on to our consent items. So we have item A through J. Is there any request from any trustees to pull any of these items for discussion?
I'll move consent.
Okay, consent is moved. I'll need a second.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Let's please vote on the consent item.
Mr. Bernstein,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Green. Sorry, you're muted, Mr. Green.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Santos.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Okay, we have no excluded consent items, so we're moving on to item 10, our non-consent items. Our first item is the Board of Retirement and Board of Investments 2024 meeting calendar. We all had it in front of us. I did not see any conflicts. I think this is the first time in history. I didn't see any conflicts for our board. Is there any request from any trustees to address any changes? And did staff have a different opinion than what I had said?
I think we're okay. The only thing that we wanted to point out was the board of retirement offsite, the 27th and the 28th. It's not a regularly scheduled meeting, so.
Got it.
Yeah.
Any concerns with the offsite 27, 28, or any of the dates? I see Miss Gray.
I did notice that there is a conflict. It does not apply to the BOR, but if there are members of the BOI on the BOR, I would ask that they consider changing the date because it does conflict with the SACR's conference date. I
With the
believe-
offsite 27, 28?
No, I thought you meant any of the dates.
Oh,
You
no,
said
sorry.
Any dates.
Yeah,
So
which date is that? I didn't
In
notice
May?
that.
I did notice it was in May.
Do you have the phone? Let me check.
It's only for BOI.
Oh, okay, so that's going to be for BOI, so we'll encourage the BOI through the BOI's chair, if we can have them reconsider that date. I'm sure they will.
I hope that they do because a lot of SACRs, and Mr. Santos just pointed this out, that we do reach out to other systems for important issues, but also a lot of the material and education that is put on by SACRs is actually aimed toward the investment community. And it deals with the investments that other systems, boards have to look at. And it's important that we and they refer to LACERA as the big dogs. So we as the big dogs be there to support the other systems and give them guidance so that they don't have to recreate the wheel sometimes. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm sure the BOI will honor that request. I see no other addresses or no other requests to change any of the dates, so we'll go ahead and make a motion to retain the calendar as written, including the offsite dates. Yes. Okay, do we need it for the offsite or no? No. Okay, then we will scratch that. No motion necessary. Without objection, we'll just proceed with the meeting. Okay, so that brings us to item B, which is our information systems acceptable use and mobile device policy for trustees. I'll kick off that discussion. So this item was presented to the Organizational Governance Committee, Joint Organizational Governance Committee. And unfortunately, I was unable to make that because I did have a conflict on my calendar, but I had concerns about the acceptable use policy that was written. And I've taken the opportunity to make some relatively minor but substantive changes to the policy. And I believe everybody should have a copy in front of them. Okay, so this is my recommended revisions in the policy, and I'll just briefly go through them. I don't think we need any additional formal presentation. The board has received everything. So the The policy as written would be restrictive and would be broad based. So it would apply to everybody in every circumstance. But there's some circumstances where devices don't have the ability to have mobile device management. They don't have the ability to have certain type of password requirements. They also might have other MDM devices on them. So there's a lot of different conflicting issues. So the goal of my requested changes to this policy is to shift this to a should and a best practice versus a must and a shall. So you'll see throughout the policy, I've changed the number of musts and to shoulds. So for example, I'll just briefly go through it on page 2. It should follow the standard procedures. I've recommend eliminating the yearly attestment element. There's multiple policies that our board is required to follow, and we don't attest to complying with those policies. It's a requirement that we follow those policies. On page 4, once again, I've changed it to should rather than must as far as the complexity of the passwords, and that trustees have the ability to request for LACERA to leverage the various tools to recover and wipe stolen devices of your own personal devices. So it's our ability to request LACERA to assist with that, or you could do it on your own, depending upon your technical expertise. The other change that I did was I eliminated item 9, which was the requirement of not using unauthorized resources, which was listed here as a cloud drive, USB stick, etc. Ironically, LACERA provides us with a cloud drive with O365, so that would restrict our own use of O365. The bottom line is that this is all covered within our existing policies of us protecting the data integrity of any device or any material that we have with personally identifiable information. Regardless of the use of the tool, we still are responsible for protecting the data. And on page 5, I had recommended changing the compliance of the policy to simply place that on the responsibility of the board. So the board obviously has the ability to restrict other trustees from using their own device, but that should be through the board and a board decision. So it should be a rather serious violation of data integrity issues, and that could be brought to the board to discuss. Outside of that, the overall policy remains as written, except for the focus is that we as trustees have the ability to reach out and work with LACERA systems on securing our devices, and rather than it being a formal requirement to comply with that. So my recommendation would be to, and I'll go ahead and make the motion to accept the non-LACERA managed device policy with the recommended revisions that I have submitted.
I'll second that.
It's moved and seconded, and now will be open for discussion from any trustees. Mr. Knox?
Yeah, thank you. Just, I guess, a question for you, the thought behind the should, just was it a little more flexibility, a little more independence? I tend to lean more towards the mandate, but just wanted to hear from you your thought behind it.
Flexibility based on everybody's unique scenario. So the way this policy is written is pretty much any cloud system, any cloud device, any email that you use, any device itself. So it's beyond devices, also applications and services would all fall within this policy and would have all of these restrictions. And that is way too broad of a scope for me. As just one example, I do all my LACERA stuff on my Sheriff's Department phone, which is under a Sheriff's Department mobile device management system, and you can't have two on the system itself. So I would immediately be out of compliance, and I'd have to have a third device to look at LACERA stuff. Any personal computer, based on the existing policy, any personal computer that you use at home to connect to a non-LACERA email address that you're sending emails would fall within the scope of that policy. So for me, it was a little too restrictive. This allows us to be flexible, and it encourages us to do best practices, which is the ultimate goal. Ultimate goal of this policy is to encourage us to do best practices for passwords and password protection, which I guarantee I do. I 20 character passwords plus. But it encourages that, but it's not a formal requirement. Also, as trustees on the board, ultimately we do need a little bit of independence on ourselves. So it's a combination of both of what you said. And I don't think it substantially deviates from the goal of the policy, but it allows for flexibility based on everybody's unique scenario and encourages us to work with systems to make sure that all of our devices are properly secured. And obviously, I don't think it's the goal of any trustee to have an unsecured device or to be a cause of a system breach. But to date, that has not been an issue, and I don't think that any of us actually have any access to do anything beyond, really, honestly, what's going through emails, and usually it's pretty limited. Everything else we do is via Prime Gov or One Meeting, so those are my thoughts on the policy change.
Okay, thank you. I'm most of the way there. I think I would certainly strongly encourage Mr. Kryman to make sure that outreach from IT to trustees is consistent and at set intervals, just so I'm not heading down a path where, no, I think I'm good. And I did it when I first joined the board. And then a couple of years later, I'm all over the place and accidentally have an issue. I'm like you. I use my TTC phone for stuff that I'm not doing otherwise in the office, but yeah, I just get concerned that we open it up. I get concerned that even if we have an oops, it's going to be a major problem that could have been avoided. But I appreciate that, yeah, there's some technical issues there that maybe the policy doesn't consider. So thank you.
Ms. Gray.
I was only going to say, Mr. Kehoe, thank you for going through and making those suggested revisions, because when I read through the policy, as anyone with a legal background knows that if it says shall, that is mandatory. And it does give us more flexibility, and it personally takes the restraint off of our shoulders in terms of feeling like you have to do something a certain way. And everyone likes to have the ability to make a choice, a conscious choice. And I think that having a less broad situation where we are more aware of what we are doing is, number one, giving us choice, and giving us choice with the awareness of what we need to be looking for in terms of security. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Santos.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Kehoe, for taking the time and doing the red line piece. Really appreciate it. I would like to hear from management, in particular, from the security perspective, the changes that Mr. Kehoe is proposing here. What's your view in terms of securing the information or the purpose behind this policy? I'm assuming that you already had an opportunity to review the changes?
Yes, I had an opportunity to review the changes. I think they're good. I think at least it gets us somewhere, like Mr. Kehoe mentioned. I think it's okay to have
Okay.
that kind of.
Good, I make a motion to, well, it's already been moved and second, right? Okay, I need support. Thank you.
Any additional questions or thoughts? Seeing none, let's please do a roll call vote.
Mr. Bernstein?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Knox?
Aye.
Mr. Oakham?
Aye.
Mr. Robbins?
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez?
Aye.
Mr. Santos?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for staff for the effort on this as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So item C is the CEO's compensation discussion, but we will, if there is no objection, we will table this and hold this for any open session discussion, because we do have a closed session item to discuss this. So if there's no objection, we will table item C, so we have the ability to go back to it in the future.
In the future, in this meeting?
In this meeting, yes,
Okay.
table for this meeting, yep. Okay, no objection. We're going to move to item 11, which is our reports. Item A is our FPPC Form 700 e-filing, and we will turn this over to Jessica.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Great. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jessica Rivas, Staff Counsel. As you may all recall, about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, I presented to the some of you will recall, I presented to the Operations Oversight Committee about our search for an e-filing solution or an electronic filing solution for our Form 700 process, and that our goal was to have both LACERA staff and trustees use that solution. And so I'm excited to report back today that we have adopted an e-filing solution, and to let you know more about that system and what you can expect for the first time when you use it during this next annual filing period in 2024. Next slide. So just by way of background, very briefly, the filing requirement for your board is based on LACERA's Conflicts of Interest Code. In contrast, the Board of Investment, their filing requirement comes from the Government Code 87200. So you may, in filing your form, hear a distinction between code filers and 87200 filers. That's all that means. The different filing methods, e-filing is what we're going to move to. That is a very specifically defined by the FPPC and regulations, various requirements and what an e-filing system needs to have in order to be used by an agency, and ultimately needs to be approved by the FPPC before we use it. Paper, for lack of a better term, is just everything else. Could be a literal hard copy that you submit. It could be a PDF that you fill in and email, basically anything that isn't submitted through an electronic filing system. In terms of the place of filing, previously, the trustees filed with the county. We assisted you if you needed any help, but I believe most of you filed directly through the county e-filing system, and LACERA staff filed with LACERA on paper. So they were just filing either on PDFs or through hard copies. Next slide. So here are changes. No changes to the filing requirements. Those still are the same, and the reasons for them are the same. Again, we've adopted an e-filing system. We've adopted Granicus, their e-filing solution. And just very briefly, I recently learned that there have been some ongoing issues with One Meeting, which is another Granicus application. I just wanted to let you know we did confirm with Granicus that that has no impact on the Form 700 application. They're entirely separate, so there's no impact to that. Paper is still available if necessary. Again, e-filing is strongly preferred for a whole host of reasons that we briefed you on last time, but basically it'll make the process much easier for you and for staff in processing them, and it will save your data year over year, so you don't need to refill everything every year. However, if the need does arise, we have the flexibility to accept a paper application, and I believe that the main reason we will see that, and we'll get to this in a moment, is for folks who have multiple positions and file with other agencies. And so we'll discuss that in a bit more detail in a moment. Place of filing, the change that has been incorporated by way of the recent updates to our conflict of interest code is that now both trustees and staff file with LACERA. So we're not there's no distinction anymore. Trustees aren't filing with county. Trustees are now going to file with LACERA as well as staff. Next slide.
Does that mean we're not going to get an email from the county?
That is correct.
That's what I always get.
That is correct. So you will be getting an email from our e-filing system signed by me, and I'll be available to help out with any issues.
Can you also address for, I know Keith and myself, for Form 700 filers for the county as well?
Yes.
So
we're going to come up to that. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that
I'm
up.
sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Oh, sorry, Jason. So Keith Knox and myself are Form 700 filers with the county, so we have to do one with the county and with LACERA. I don't know.
But did Les, I heard that, did Les have a comment?
You didn't hear Les's comment.
Les, what was?
I think it was just where the email came from.
Oh, Les was just confirming that the email is going to come from LACERA and not from the County of Los Angeles.
Right. So moving forward, you won't hear from the county. You'll be hearing from LACERA, legal office, and me. So here's just a brief timeline. As you can see, staff was paper filing pre-2023. This annual period in 2023, they already have used the e-filing system, and it went extremely smoothly. We were really excited to see that. Trustees were e-filing or paper filing. I believe you had that option with the county up through this year, and moving forward in 2024 onwards, we'll all be together at LACERA on our e-filing system. Next slide. So on or about March 1st, you're going to receive two emails. One will have your account login information for the e-disclosure website, and then the second will be a notice about your annual statement and when the due date is. And that, as it is every year, is April 1st, 2024. And I know some folks like to work on them early. You can technically begin working on them as soon as January 1st rolls around. So if you'd like to get a head start, just let me know. That's you? Okay, so I will get you set up so you can do that. Otherwise, you can just stand by and you'll get the email on March 1st or on or about March 1st. Next slide. When you log in, this is the screen you'll see, and on the left-hand side, there is a video tutorial. I think most of you will have no issues just jumping right in and clicking around, and it's very intuitive. You'll be able to figure it out quite easily. But there is a quick 5-minute video that explains the whole system from start to finish, and it is right there on the left-hand side when you log in.
Can you send that sometime after January 1st? Email that to us.
The video link?
Everything. There.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think it would be a good explanation and maybe would reduce the calls you receive.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Next slide. If you do have a lot of data, something that we're excited to offer that the system offers is the use of spreadsheets. So instead of having to individually type in into each field all your data, which can be pretty time consuming if you have a lot to report, you can now just simply use a spreadsheet and then upload it, and the system will populate the forms based on what you provided. And if you need those in advance, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can let me know. I can provide those. I know a few of you need them. Otherwise, they are available in the system as you're moving through each schedule. And here's the multiple positions. So there have been no changes to the FPPC requirements for those of you who have multiple positions. You still have the same options as you always have, which is, on the one hand, you're welcome to file separate statements with each agency. And if you have a short statement, that may be the easiest thing. If you don't have anything to report or very little, it may be just easier to fill out 2 separate statements with each agency for your different positions. You also have the option to file an expanded statement with the agency at which you hold your primary position, and then submit a copy of that statement to LACERA or to the other agency. And so I believe there are about 7 or 8 folks at the moment who have other filing obligations with other agencies or other county departments. And so I would love to work individually with you to make sure I understand your plan and to be able to work out any problems in advance, make sure you know what you're doing. And if you historically have filed with the county with your county department and handed us a copy, we can continue that practice. Or if you'd like to just reevaluate, I'm here to walk you through that and to make sure you understand what all the requirements are. Next slide. And then that's it. Happy to take any questions.
So my understanding would be that if you do a Form 700 through the county, you can do it through the county and then send a copy to us, and then we would process it. Is that how?
Essentially, yeah. There are some specific requirements for those, are called expanded statements.
Okay.
And we can talk in detail about your specific situation, but in general, an expanded statement needs to identify all your positions, has to list both your county position and your LACERA position, and you must make the disclosures required by both positions. So you may have different reporting requirements, and so this one form would report for everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understand. I think last time I ran into problems on the county side because it wasn't allowing me to add the LACERA information. I ended up doing 2 filings, but I'll work with you offline.
Sounds good. Great.
Question,
Thank you so much.
Jessica?
Oh, go ahead.
The spreadsheets are great. Will the new system offer an option to populate details from the previous filing, or does everything have to be entered de novo?
No, that is another huge benefit of this e-filing system is that it saves your information year over year. So the next year you can just make updates, or maybe you need to delete some things, but you will not need to generate all the information every year, which I understand. And actually, from my own experience using the accounting system, that's what you had to do.
I will go there. This is wonderful. I wish I was slightly less petty that I've been complaining about this for over a decade, and I'm leaving today. And
Well, you'll get to file a leaving office statement.
the sense of irony is overwhelming. But the system punishes people who don't trade whatever their equities thing is through a mutual fund. For people who make the choices many people should be able to do to trade equities individually, it has been, for anyone who doesn't know, a ridiculously onerous system. And so I will end on an up note. This is really great news.
Thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate it.
Additional questions?
Can I just recognize Jess for all of her hard work on this. I know that she conceived and is busy implementing everything now. So we appreciate Mr. Bernstein, Trustee Bernstein, your irony on all this, but we got it done. And so we're looking forward to working with you all, making this process a lot painless as possible. So thank you very much for all your hard work.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I'm selfishly also, have to file these. So I'm excited to use the new system. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation, and we're looking forward to using the new system. On to item B, which is our AB 1020 presumptions from Mr. Boyd, and we do have a presentation.
Yes. Am I live? Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. It's a pleasure to be here this morning to explain the new presumptions that have come under AB 1020. Could you please go to the next slide? So this bill takes effect on January 1st, 2024, which is next month. It expands the types of injuries that are presumed to arise out of in the course of employment. And in certain disability presumptions, it extends the 60-day up to 60 months after the member retires, which I will discuss in detail towards the end of the discussion. Next slide. So currently we have 5 presumptions. We have the heart presumption, the cancer presumption, the blood-borne disease presumption, and the biochemical substances presumption, and the COVID-19 presumption that is set to sunset at the end of this month. AB 1020 provides us with new presumptions that you see in the screen. We have a post-traumatic stress disorder, a duty belt for lower back impairments, tuberculosis, meningitis, skin cancer, Lyme disease, hernia, or pneumonia. And also, which is really important that we're going to discuss towards the end of the discussion, the heart presumption has an extension for up to 60 months after the member last work. This will help members who have filed their applications beyond the 4 months of leaving service, and I will talk about that in more detail. So let's talk about what is a presumption. I've had presumption presentations before, so a lot of this is a review. But if there's no presumption in a case, and if the member proves that they're permanently incapacitated from a medical condition, but the member carries the burden of proving that there was a real and measurable contribution from their employment and the incapacity, and that the injury leading to the incapacity arose out of the course of employment. That's how most of our members, that's the burden they have to make. The presumption erases that burden for our members and presumes that the incapacity came out of employment. Next slide, please. So in non-presumption cases, the member has to meet their burden with a preponderance of evidence. So does the evidence weigh in favor of a finding service connection? We have picture two, a legal scale, and if it goes over 51%, that's preponderance of evidence. Service connection on a medical issue needs to be supported by some type of medical opinion. Whenever you have competing opinions, the board gets to weigh those opinions and determine which one is more substantial in finding whether or not the member has met their burden. Next slide. So what is a presumption? So the definition of a presumption is that it's an assumption of fact the law requires to be drawn from one or more other facts already established in the action. And you basically have two presumptions. You have a rebuttable presumption where the presumption can be rebutted with additional information, or you have a conclusive presumption where once the facts have been established, there's no chance to rebut the presumption. The presumptions that I'm going to discuss this morning are all rebuttable presumptions. Next slide. Okay, so when the presumption is rebuttable, the burden of proving that the incapacity did not arise out of employment or that the employment did not substantially contribute to the incapacity falls on LACERA. So normally it's the member's burden to show this, but when we have a case with a presumption, LACERA has to prove that the presumption has been rebutted. Next slide. Okay, so the first presumption we're going to talk about is post-traumatic stress presumption. It falls under Government Code 31720.91. Next slide. So this applies to active firefighting members and peace officers. And what you're going to find in many of these presumptions that we're discussing this morning, the description of what members the presumption applies to borrow from the labor code on the workers' compensation side. So you'll have a presumption, here we have a presumption in our government code section 31720.91, which is a SERL statute, but in identifying the members who are eligible, the statute under the government code specifically refers to the labor code. So that's why you're seeing two different codes on these slides. The incapacity has to be established under post-traumatic stress diagnosis under the most current DSM, which is the DSM-5. And this morning, I kind of just printed out the elements under the DSM-5 to give you an idea of what the member's incapacity has to be based on. And there are basically 8 elements for post-traumatic stress disorder. They need to be exposed to a traumatic event, either actual or threatened death, serious injury, or serious sexual violence. They must exhibit intrusion symptoms, persistent avoidance of emotional numbing, negative alterations in cognitions and mood that are associated with a traumatic event, trauma-related alterations in arousal and reactivity that began or worsened after the traumatic event. And these symptoms have to be persistent for more than a month. And significant symptom-related distress or functional impairment, which would be the reason the person could not do the job. And these symptoms cannot be due to any medication or substance or illness. I didn't put these in the slides. All this information will be covered by our medical expert when it comes to you. The most important thing for today is to understand that there is a presumption. In my opinion, I think this presumption will help us in cases where we've had safety members who've committed suicide and we really don't know all the details of what happened. It is a rebuttable presumption, so if there's some outside trauma that the person was exposed to, that may come in play in rebutting the presumption. And this law sunsets on January 1st, 2025. So it's only, for right now, it's only open for a year. I suspect this will be extended, and most of my colleagues in other systems, we all have the same suspicion, but if it does, I will bring that information to the board so that you're aware of it.
Mr. Knox, did you want to ask?
Yeah, if I could, just on this exact point, just curious more than anything, when elements like this have sunset dates, is that typically done for political reasons up front, just to get something on the books? Is it so they can build up a body of evidence or data to support something longer term or slightly different? Just curious on your experience.
I think both. I think we saw that with the COVID presumption. It was for a year, then they moved it forward based on the number of cases coming in. So I just suspect that this will be maybe even made permanent. Who knows? But we'll just wait and see.
Okay, thank you.
Next slide. Okay, the duty belt lower back presumption. So I'm not sure if any of you have reviewed these slides, but there was a typo in my original slide, and we corrected it. Bonnie helped me correct it a few days ago, so I will get to that point. This applies to deputy sheriffs. They have to be employed at least 5 years of service on a regular full-time salary and has been required to wear a duty belt as a condition of employment. A duty belt is defined in the statute as for purposes of holding a gun, handcuffs, and other items related to law enforcement. And the incapacity needs to be from the lower back, which is a good bulk of the claims that we see here from our deputy sheriffs. Now, here's the part where what's really important. You're going to see on the slide on the screen, there's a red or. In my original submission, I had accidentally wrote and it's not. It's the lower back impairment, which develops or manifests while in service. Now, develop means the courts have looked at this definition and was there a condition developing that may not have exhibited symptoms or incapacitated the person? So if someone, let's give an example, if someone has a lower back condition when they retire, there's medical evidence showing that the lower back condition is there. Unfortunately, they filed beyond the 4-month time limitations for filing their application, and there's very little evidence linking continuous incapacity from the time they left service to the time they apply. If there is that medical evidence that this medical condition developed while they were in service, this presumption has an extension of time. And I'll go to the next slide. It should have the time elements here. And the member gets 3 months after termination of service. They get 3 calendar months for each full year that they were employed. So if someone worked 20 years as a deputy sheriff, they would get an additional 5 years. And if they medical evidence could establish that the back condition developed while they were in service and they became incapacitated during that 5-year period of time, their late filed application would not be considered late filed anymore, and we would be able to process it. So that's going to change how we address some of our late filed applications. You'll see that as soon as next month. I'm working on a memo right now explaining it to you. And speaking of the memos, my normal practice is to provide a legal recommendation on all presumption cases so the board has understanding what's going on. With the duty belt, I'm not going to do every case. If it's not necessary to apply it, if the doctor has found service connected or if the application is filed timely, I'm just going to put the case through. But if it's a situation where perhaps the doctor says that the medical evidence does not show arising out of course of employment or substantial contribution, I will apply this presumption to facts and present a memo. Same thing if we have a late filed application. I will prepare a memo for the board so there's a clear understanding of it. But I will not be doing this for every case because I wouldn't be writing memos all night long.
That makes perfect sense.
Next slide. We're going backwards. There we go. Tuberculosis. So this is a new presumption. It's found under Government Code 31720.92. It applies to deputy sheriffs, custody assistants, and people who perform active law enforcement and their usual duties.
No medical? Medical wasn't included in that?
Well, the medical,
Did they already have
no,
stuff?
let me back up for a second. All these presumptions are addressing causation. So the member would have to be, the medical evidence would have to establish that the member was permanently incapacitated from tuberculosis. If they haven't made that burden, we won't even talk about the presumptions.
Got it. But I'm sorry. So my question was medical employees were not included in this presumption?
No.
They work alongside us in the jails. And have
Well,
this as
yeah,
much. I'm surprised that they weren't.
That is an interesting point, but it's deputy sheriffs, custody assistants, and members of active law enforcement. It's just how it worked out. DA investigators are included in this. Active firefighter members whose duties require active firefighting and first aid response services are included in this, and the presumption is rebuttable. Next slide. And again,
It says active fire and first aid response services, but it's still it's still a safety category, or would
the first aid response services is included in the same sentence when they talk about active firefighter members. My reading of it was it wouldn't be tied to anyone at the jails providing medical services, but I will take a closer look at this. So if I get a case where there's a nurse or a physician in the jail system, I will look very closely.
As well as public defenders.
Public defenders wouldn't fall under the active law enforcement. You have to be
right.
Yeah,
exactly. But we deal with the clients.
Right, you're in the jails. I get it.
Exactly. So surprising.
Yeah. And also,
but you place the deputy sheriff between you and.
I just think a better. Well, I guess we'd have to go through SACRs and other legal situations where instead of just suctioning out law enforcement, just those active in the criminal justice system, which would encompass both DAs, public defenders, and all of the others that you have mentioned, because it certainly does discriminate against those who are in the criminal justice system, basically doing the same thing or doing it side by side, but they have a different burden of proof should they have a disability application.
Yes, and a lot of this is the sausage making of legislation. But just don't forget that the member can still file a claim and show a service connection with just a preponderance of evidence. So if a DA or any kind of person is in the facility and there's a potential being exposed in the facility, then they could still be considered service connected. They just wouldn't be under the presumption.
I have Mr. Robbins with a question.
What about coroner's investigators?
It's not in there.
They see the worst stuff in the county. They're dealing with dead bodies.
Yeah.
Every day. It seems to me that a lot of this stuff should apply to them.
Yeah, but it's unfortunately it's not in the statute.
Okay.
All right, next slide. And again, this has the same language. The tuberculosis must develop or manifest while the member's in service. So if there's medical evidence that there was some development of the tuberculosis before the member retired, they can apply the extension that we discussed with the last presumption. And all these presumptions we're going to go through have that extension. Meningitis. So if the member establishes that they're incapacitated based on meningitis, and if they're a deputy sheriff, active law enforcement, a DA investigator, or active firefighter member, that is presumed to arise out of employment. Again, the presumption is rebuttable. Next slide.
And that's inclusive of all meningitis, not.
Pardon?
It's inclusive of all forms of meningitis.
Yeah, there's no distinctions in that. So I take that as all forms of meningitis. These are conditions that we don't see that often. So I'm not sure how often, like the duty belt's going to come up a lot. Again, it must manifest or develop while the member's in service, and they get the extended time of up to 60 months beyond the time that they last worked. Next slide. This is a new presumption for skin cancer, and this applies to active lifeguards employed at least 3 consecutive months in a calendar year. Currently, I'm fairly certain that the full-time lifeguards are covered by the current cancer presumption, but here we've got individuals that work seasonal, so this presumption would help these seasonal lifeguards. Again, the skin cancer must develop or manifest itself while members in service. It's rebuttable, and it has the time extension of up to 60 months like the other ones. Next slide. Lyme disease. We do see Lyme disease come up once in a while. If a member's incapacity is based on Lyme disease, it applies to peace officers, which is a broader definition. Our probation officers are considered peace officers. So if they're sworn peace officers, the Lyme disease presumption applies. Again, it must develop or manifest itself while the member is in service. It's rebuttable, and it has up to 60 months after the member stopped working extension. Hernia or pneumonia. Okay, so this is a new presumption. It applies to deputy sheriffs, persons working in active law enforcement, DA investigators, active firefighters. The hernia needs to develop or manifest itself while in service. And with the pneumonia, it says pneumonia and heart trouble develops or manifests itself while in service. So a member would have to have pneumonia and heart trouble to be eligible for the pneumonia section of this presumption. And what they seem to have done is put two conditions into one statute.
Was that a mistake? Or
That's how I read the statute, and that's how it comes out. It's put together in one statute. So you could be incapacitated from a hernia, be one of these members who are eligible for it. And if the hernia developed or manifests while in service, you're incapacitated to be service connected. If you develop pneumonia and heart trouble, then it would be presumed to arise out of employment.
I think we're gonna have to hire a few more attorneys figure out there to figure this all out. I have Mr. Green with a question.
Oh. Mr. Green?
Jason?
I was just, my questions regarding language. Is there mechanism required, like Lyme disease? I mean, does there have to be a mechanism, a known exposure, like the actual getting a tick in you? The same thing. I know the duty belt obviously is, that's a mechanism they wear as part of their uniform, but like this hernia, Lyme disease, things like that, do you have to have a mechanism? Or
Well, you have to show that you're permanently incapacitated from the condition. That's all you have to show. So if you have Lyme disease, I'm not a doctor, but my understanding that Lyme disease most likely comes from a tick bite. You don't really have to show with the presumption that you were actually in an area where you could have been exposed to a tick. It's presumed based on the statute.
Thank you. And clearly, number 3 is a mistake from the legislature because heart trouble is already included, so we already have that as a presumption.
Well, what it does is it adds an extra. You can't just come in with pneumonia. You have to have pneumonia and heart trouble.
Yeah.
So I don't
heart
understand.
trouble by itself is already covered.
Right,
so
right.
now, if you want pneumonia, you're going to have heart trouble, but it would already been covered under heart trouble. So it's a silly.
Yeah, I read this several times, and I was surprised when I read that. Anyway.
Frank, can I ask?
Sure.
Just about Lyme. This is my farmer hat, but Lyme is a specific manifestation of a tick illness. Why did they really should have made it debilitating tick-borne diseases. By making it Lyme, they've excluded everything else. Is that correct?
Correct.
So for what it's worth, it seems to me that's something where if there is a presumption of debilitating tick-borne illnesses, it doesn't make sense to limit it to the most prevalent, but not the only one that can impact workers.
I'll, as a lawyer, all I can do is take the statute and how it's written and apply it.
Maybe it's more of a comment for staff that to the degree when we're asking them to consider improvements in legislation, there's just no, if you're saying tick-borne is a presumption.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying Lyme disease is a presumption, and Lyme, from my general knowledge, mostly comes from ticks.
I hope I'm not coming across as quarrelsome. I don't mean it that way. I just mean for future iterations of the code, it doesn't quite make sense to me.
Yeah. Well, welcome to legislature. There's one more thing. I suspect there's been a growing number of Lyme disease cases in Southern California and Central California, which just from my general reading of the LA Times, that hasn't been in the past. It's usually a East Coast disease, but I suspect that's why we have this presumption.
I have Mr. Robbins with a question.
Well, that's because the little critter that transmits Lyme disease has slowly migrated to the West Coast. I have a friend who got Lyme disease 10 years ago from a camping trip in Colorado. So that 10 years ago, that particular tick had moved. So now it may be here, but I'm having a hard time putting my arms around how this is going to work. Say a young deputy sheriff or firefighter hires on at the age of 20 and at 25 years retires and no problems. 4 years later, he comes down with Lyme disease because he went camping somewhere where there's ticks, and he files a service-connected disability retroactively for this. How the hell are we gonna, how is this gonna work?
Well, it's a rebuttable presumption, so if we have those facts to consider, that could rebut the presumption and say, well, wait a second, your medical records show that you were camping, and after your camping trip, you contracted Lyme disease. So these are all rebuttable. So if we do a good job in investigating it and looking at the medical records.
Well, if he was totally, I mean, he could have had Lyme disease and maybe had a real mild case of it and didn't have a problem, or he never had Lyme disease until well after he or she retired. And I'm just trying to put my arms around, for lack of a better terminology, how we're going to police this when we go about doing what we do. When somebody says, I got Lyme disease and didn't have it when I worked, but 5 years later I've got it and I'm going to cash in now. I mean, I'm just kind of wondering, how this, to me, this is worse than the Sam Brown, and I got real issues with the whole thing with the Sam Brown too. But bottom line is,
well, Mr. Robbins, remember that the Lyme disease has to develop or manifest while the member's in service. So there has to be medical evidence that there was some existence of the Lyme disease while this member was in service. So if someone had retired, did not have Lyme disease, they can't just come in here and say, I'm incapacitated, it's service-connected. It has to, there needs to be medical evidence showing that it actually developed while they were in service. So that's kind of reins in some of that abuse.
I get that. What I don't get is the 5 years. If they get it, if they're symptomatic when they're working and they can show it's Lyme disease, and it is, by the way, almost 99% by the bite of a tick, and it can be horribly debilitating. I mean, really, really, really debilitating. But I would imagine with some people it could be no big deal. But I'm just kind of wondering if they've got it, they're going to know it when they retire.
Right.
If they don't have any symptoms or anything else, and 4 years later suddenly they do.
Well, I suspect, because remember that this up to 60-month extension came with the cancer presumption, because you could have cancer develop in your body and not even know it, and it won't exhibit the symptoms. So that's the reason that language came about in the first place. And what happened here is the legislator just plucked that language and put it in all of these. So as an easy fix. There was I don't think there was any deliberation on each individual. They just plucked the up to 60 months from the cancer and gave it on all these presumptions.
You listening to all this, Tom? Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Our disability attorneys are sitting back there all going, oh, man.
Okay, so we're down to the last presumption. And this is, we've had the HART presumption since the 1950s. And it applies to safety members who perform active fire suppression, members who perform active law enforcement. They must have 5 years of service in a pension system. They develop heart trouble, that heart trouble developing or manifesting itself in those cases shall presume to arise out of the course of employment. Nothing has changed so far. It's a rebuttable presumption, but it can't be attributed to pre-existing disease, which makes it very difficult to rebut the HART presumption. The next slide is the new language that's been attached to this. Next slide. And that is the extension up to 60 months. So this has always been a bone of contention in the disability area, because the workers' compensation presumption has always had this extension language. You have up to 5 years that you can file a claim. CERL has not. So we've had cases where a member in the comp system, that we could apply the presumption even after they retired, because they had this 60-month extension. The CERL presumption under 317-205 did not have it. Beginning January 1st next month, it will. We've had some members who have retired, and 3 or 4 years after they retire, they've had a heart attack, they're incapacitated. They do not get a service-connected disability retirement under the current presumption because they can't show continuous incapacity from the heart from the time they left. Now these members will be able to be considered applications filed timely. So the next slide, I've actually gone through this at the very beginning. It's just these time limits are under 31722. But I'm free to answer any further questions if the board has any.
Okay, any additional questions? I know we were taking questions throughout. Anybody have any final questions? I see none. I thank you very much, Frank, for the presentation. It's very informative and a lot to wrap our head around with this. Thank you. Okay, just for a time check for everybody, we're gonna get through to good of the order, and then we'll take a bathroom break for everybody, and then we'll come back. So, fortunately, items C through J is information only. Is there any trustee who would like to poll or discuss any of those items? Hearing none, we'll move on to items for staff review. Bonnie, do we have any?
We only have one request from Trustee Santos. He requested an update regarding the county litigation.
Okay.
I think I did that already.
Do we need any additional?
Do you want formal? No formal?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so we will withhold that one. And then moving on to our items for future agendas. Any requests from any trustees to add future agenda items? Seeing none, we will move on to good of the order.
Mr. Oakham. Good of the order?
Yeah, Western Asset has invited us to go see the parade. If you haven't seen that, if you haven't gone to the Western Asset, it's a nice situation. I just want to remind everybody in the room that Michigan, and I was going to wear my Michigan hat today, but I decided it was not appropriate, is coming to the Rose Bowl to play a team from Alabama. I talked to him yesterday. Tickets are sold out. It's going to be an absolute incredible game. So if you have a chance to go, okay, Mr. Grable, they might invite you from Western Asset if that's not a conflict. So if you have a chance, do it. Pasadena, as you know, it's a wonderful time. The theme of the parade this year by a fellow who's the president, Alex Agajanian, who's a lawyer and does some work for me, is music. And they have her last name is McDonald, I forgot her first name. She's a wonderful Broadway artist, has won all kinds of awards, and she'll be the Grand Marshal. She's not a well-known name.
Audra McDonald.
What's her first name?
Audra.
Andra, she's from Fresno.
She is in my house.
She's pretty well known.
In whose house?
JP.
JP?
house.
He's listening to it now.
Well, I'm pleased. Better go to Western Asset and see it. Anyway, that's it. First of all, I want to congratulate and wish warm regards to our retiring to Alan, okay, and to Santos on your retirements. Alan, we'll look forward to if you haven't moved to South Carolina or wherever that is, we'd look forward to having you back for my last year. And Herman, you're going to enjoy yourself out east and have, one more year before retirement?
Correct.
Okay, I'm wondering if I can get 25 years and retire in about 3 or 4, but I haven't figured out how to do that. Thank you all.
Mr. Sanchez?
I just want to congratulate everybody that received their promotion. Congratulations and thank you to everyone that makes this place run. And happy holidays.
Ms. Gray?
I don't even know where to begin. So I'll just trail off of Mr. Sanchez. I am really happy to hear of the promotions within LACERA, and that's the whole operative word, within. It's, you recognize, Mr. Kramer, you recognize the very good work of our staff, and I commend you and the individuals who decided to promote those from within. It just makes me feel really good because it also increases morale within the department. I shouldn't call you the department, within the office, because they have something to look forward to. And I thank you for that. The next issue I wanted to raise was Alan. Thank you so much. It's been great working with you. We have had our moments, but we have always been friends. And it's always good to see Alan at conferences. Lets you know that there's somebody else that's got your back. And something that I learned about Alan, he is an incredible a cappella singer. Incredible. And it's wonderful to have been serenaded by him once.
Wow.
Incredible. Herman, you have been my mentor. We've been joined at the hip. It has just been wonderful. You have served the boards for 20 years total. And that's a long time to be a trustee. It's a long time to dedicate all of your energies toward making sure that our members are protected, our fund is protected, and making sure that everything is fair. You put so much work into what you do, and it's evident by your discussions at meetings, the issues that you bring up. You put everyone's feet to the fire, including mine, and you have made me see that it's not just going by whatever's on a piece of paper, but reading it and questioning everything, because I believe that is the standard that we all should use, because it, number one, meets our fiduciary duty, and it makes us a well-run board, so that there is a balance between staff and the board and the decisions that we make. And therefore, we have a secure retirement for all. And of course, not to beat a dead horse, but we can provide, provide, protect, and protect, provide the promised benefits. It's the P's. And, I never have taken our mission lightly. It is something that we really look at. And Herman, you are the epitome of the person who really takes that to heart, and you put it to use within your decision making and analysis. So I thank you so much for all that you've done for LACERA and all that you've done for me as a trustee. It's just incredible. So thank you. Thank you very much. The other thing is, I wanted to tell you, Santos, that it is very good to hear about the implementation of our, my God, I lost the term, of our strategic plan. You report on it every month, and every month it's a different report that is progressive. And it's good to hear that you're doing so. So thank you to you and staff who've worked on it. And thank you to staff, particularly Mr. Boyd. You give great lectures and presentations on issues. I wish you still put them in a little binder like we used to have. I guess I'm paper oriented. So I still have the binder of various presentations on the presumptions. I still have my, Mr. Bryce, I believe, did it, but it is a bound little pamphlet that I have on the Brown Act. And I think those are very useful to have if you are paper oriented, like some of us on this board. But thank you so much. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Mr. Santos?
Yes, thank you, Vivian, for the great comments. I do want to join my colleagues in congratulating the staff that was promoted, and in particular, Roberta, for your service. When I first got elected, the very first time in the Board of Investments, I came in somewhat biased. I don't know what was in my mind at the time, but I was very distrustful of the staff. distrustful of what was going on in LACERA. And quickly, I gained tremendous respect for the work that the staff does. And in particular, when I came to the Board of Retirement, because in the Board of Investments, as you know, we're familiar what happens in the Board of Retirement, but not totally familiar with it. And I very much enjoyed my time here because what we do here, it really has a tremendous impact on our members. And that is something that is very rewarding. And Frank, reading your legal opinions, it was the first item, quite frankly. When I look at a case, I look to see if there was a legal opinion, and that was the first thing I read. Very instructive, well written, and your command of the law is tremendous. It just very few lawyers that I know have your command of the law, and how you take your time and patiently explain the rationale behind a particular decision. It was just tremendous seeing you work here every board meeting that we have. So you're an invaluable member. Everybody is invaluable, but I gotta say, Frank, from my perspective, it's tremendous work that you do. You know, when I first decided to run, or the vacancy became available on the Board of Retirement, I decided to run. As always, you go around getting support for the different labor organizations. And Mr. Key was so kind to take me to one of the law enforcement organizations that do vote for general members like myself. And at that meeting, in the discussions with the president of that particular union, it became very clear from the very beginning that this individual was mistrustful because I'm a public defender. And the assumption was that because we deal with law enforcement day in and day out in the courtroom, and a lot of times, as lawyers, we make comments and accuse members of law enforcement. And I understand the perception of me being biased, but I made a commitment then, and it's a commitment that I always kept, that I was going to look at members of the law enforcement like workers, not as the deputy sheriffs, but as workers. And I understood from my work in the public defender's office that every time a deputy sheriff or any member of the law enforcement has to take one of our clients or a citizen down, the deputy sheriff is also going down. And the deputy sheriff is going to land somewhere in the concrete, on top of the body, somewhere. You multiply that by 15, 20 years, the body is going to tell you unequivocally that all the activities entailed in law enforcement, restraining people, it has a tremendous negative consequence in your body. And I appreciate it, and I hope that I was fair to the law enforcement members who have come before this board while I was here. I quite frankly, with all due respect to colleagues here, was somewhat offended when some of my colleagues looked at managers in the sheriff's department and other law enforcement as suspect. Managers like the line deputy, the old county employees, and to get to be a captain or above, you had to work, you had to pay the dues. You were in the jail at the beginning, and that's when all the deputies started. Then you go on patrol, and then you have to deal with some of my clients, and eventually they got into management. So I just don't see any reasons why they should be treated differently. That is my opinion. I tried to be as fair as I could. That's why I was always trying to follow the law the best I could. That's why those legal memos were very instructive to me, because I always wanted to do what is right for the members. And that's a commitment that I made to my constituents, and I hope I was able to keep that throughout my service here. I'd like to thank Mr. Bernstein for your service here. Really appreciate it. Appointed members don't get paid. All the work that you do is for free. And you represent the taxpayers, and I really appreciate your commitment over the years. And to all my colleagues, we had disagreements. I remember right before we hired Mr. Kryman, which I did not like him because I was biased because he was coming from the county, and I said that at the time. But it was a good decision, I must say. But anyway, going back to my colleagues, we went through a period. There was very difficult. There were different conflicting ideas. But one key aspect that I gotta say here today is that we were both looking for what's the best interest of LACERA. Maybe we were looking at it from different perspectives, but the bottom line is that my interpretation was that anybody who disagreed with me in terms of the governance of this organization, they were doing it because they care about the organization. And what is really important, it kind of reminds me of some of the cases with the DAs where we will go at it, but at the end of the case, we were all friends, and we will all get together for a drink or play golf or whatever the case may be. I'm happy to say that that's what has happened here, although we disagree vehemently. We've all moved forward from that. Once the issue was resolved one way or another, we moved on, and there was I didn't feel any animosity towards me on some of the positions, contrary positions that I took. But that's the ideal definition of being collegial, is that you can disagree, but at the end, once the disagreement is put away, we were able to continue work, and the respect that I received from my colleagues, those that were the interpretation was different than mine, never changed. And likewise, that is very important, because the stability of this board and how we conduct ourselves on this board has a tremendous impact on the staff. It's embarrassing when we were going through our troubles before Mr. Kryman came in, to see the faces of the staff and a few comments that I received in the hallway. It's very demoralizing when the staff CEOs in disagreement and not being able to put our minds together. But we did. And even though I didn't like Mr. Kryman because you were coming from the county, I learned to respect you and appreciate you, especially when COVID hit in March when we shut down, that we had to do whatever we needed to do. And thank you for that, because you brought stability to the organization. So again, thank you, staff. Keep doing what you do day in and day out. And believe me, I will be retiring, but I will be a member. and there's always public comment if I don't like what's going on here. But I suspect that given where we are today and how stable we are, that it will be no need for me, and I can go and hang out in Colombia. So thank you very much, and happy holidays to all of you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Ellen Bernstein.
Thank you, Bonnie. So I have, as many of my people do, an overly developed sense of irony, and certainly the Form 700 progress was a little bit, but the best was we were having a holiday party downstairs when I walked in, probably when you all walked in, and you all have a very good idea of what I do and what I've been doing here, but my friends, even after 13 years, have no idea what I do here. And I have joked repeatedly over the years that people have a vague sense that I have an involvement with LACERA, and that they usually think that I'm on the holiday party organization committee because they just don't get it. I almost feel like I should start serving up the eggs down there, but I came up here and it put me in a good mood. I so appreciate the staff, and I've been here a long time, as has Herman, and I appreciate many of you, and many of your predecessors. You know, I've known Bonnie a long time now. She's such an asset, and even more significant to me, she's such a good mother. But I also remember Liz very well, and in many of the cases, I've worked with you for years, and I've worked with your predecessors, and I'm going to try to avoid name checking because I've discovered over the years that it inevitably leads to leaving off names, and I don't know of a trade magazine where I can take out an article afterwards thanking all the other people, but thank you all, and thank you so much to my colleagues. I am, and I feel like this echoes some of Herman's excellent comments. I judge my colleagues on one thing, which is, do they show up prepared? And I have been overwhelmingly impressed with the overwhelming number of colleagues who show up prepared. I have hated some of our disagreements. I have enjoyed some of our disagreements. I have been contrarian at times, and over the years, I have sometimes moved towards where other people were, and sometimes I think people have moved towards where I was, and that's the process, and it's a good process, and I've really enjoyed being a part of it. I want to thank Supervisor Zev Yaroslavsky and Supervisor Sheila Kuehl for appointing me 5 times. There was a part of me that wanted to do the hat trick of getting an appointment from Supervisor Horvath. But for those of you who have known me long enough that you remember me as this like kind of a nerdy guy raising 3 little kids, my babies turn 18 this month, and I'm going to be an empty nester, and I'm very gratified that I had this opportunity to help protect. Thank you. It's so short, and I've read it so many times that I've been involved in protecting it. I believe that LACERA is in as good or better condition today in December of 23 than when I arrived in February of 2011. And if I've played any part in that, I'm really grateful that I've gotten to be a part of it. It's been an honor to serve the members. It's a curious position being an appointed. It is a lot of work. It is no compensation, but it's really gratifying, really, really gratifying. And I so sort of want to also start acknowledging individual trustees, but I think I'm just going to do 1 or 2. And I'm going to say one thing. Herman has been an excellent addition to this board since he joined in 2016 or 17, and I'm so grateful to work with him. I want to just say a moment of acknowledgement, because my people believe in sort of keeping the memory of people alive. Herman came after Eve Cherry passed away very suddenly and very tragically, and Eve was a passionate member of this board and a passionate protector of our members, and that was a terrible loss. And of course, it's good that we got an excellent replacement, but I was thinking about Eve on the way over, and just wanted to acknowledge his memory and all the other trustees who have transitioned on in the time that I've been here. And I'm very fond of everyone, but
Sean and I joined about a month apart on the board, and I think we're unlikely people to become friends. And I think, we've become friends over the years, and I really value that. And I do value everyone, but I just wanted to say this has been an enriching journey for me, and I'm bittersweet to leave, and also really excited to be an empty nester and to not have whatever we declare on the thing, 120 to 140 hours a week of board of retirement, a month of board of retirement, not a week time. But it's been great. And thank you all for the kind words that have been said. And finally, because I actually find it kind of embarrassing to be talked about like this, and therefore feel the need to share the wealth, it is Les's birthday today.
Oh.
Sorry.
Perfect transition.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Robbins?
Yeah, burned. I'm gonna keep my comments short. Antonio, it's too bad you came on the board during COVID, because a lot of us didn't get an opportunity to really get to know you, except your picture on a computer screen as we were Zooming all of the meetings. Vivian, I agree totally with your comments about the internal promotions and the movement. I could go on for a long time about that, but I won't. Herman, you've been here a long time. You are clearly a veterano. So, a couple of us around this place, and of course, you're still going to be on the Board of Investments for another year. But your level of involvement and your enthusiasm and your ability to understand your role as a trustee has been sterling, to say the least. Alan, I don't know what to say about you. I'm going to miss you. You and I have spent a lot of time talking and just exploring LACERA and all of the things that have gone on here and our business and the questions and answers and everything else. And you've been a tremendous asset to the board and to the organization. It's not always that we get trustees like you two that have been here so long and have made such a huge contribution to the organization. They're difficult to find and even more difficult to replace. So some challenges ahead there. Ron, when are you going to give it up? When are you going to tell us who the Grand Marshal of the Rose Parade is going to be, huh? Because I understand that's a big secret that hasn't been let out yet, right?
No, it's out.
Oh, is it out?
It came out last Friday.
Oh, because I hadn't heard, so.
Well,
Sorry.
I think some people in here knew. Is that correct? Did you know, Vivian?
No.
Okay. Well, it was, I'm not sure if it was in the Pasadena Star News. We get a lot of information. I don't take the Times anymore because their
Right.
sports section has gotten so bad. So we know that it's very late, but the floats are coming along. We've got about 40 floats. It's going to be fun. Les, if you want to come to the parade with me, I will bring you and you'll sit. We'll get good parking, which is the most important thing in the world.
Yeah, I'm well aware of that. I'm well aware of that. So I've been once, believe it or not. So, and to one Rose Bowl game, and I swore I'd never go to another one because the seats I had weren't very damn good. So, and I had to get up at old dark 30 to get there. So, and I had to work it a couple times on the sheriff's department. That was just horrible duty, by the way.
We
I mean,
thought the guys had a good, let me tell you, I can't tell you, Vivian, you were in the sheriff's department. I think our chairman, isn't he in the sheriff's department? I think a little bit, Sean. And we really appreciate the sheriff's department, even though it's a tough job because you're up a long time. But without you guys and the CHP, not as much as you,
Right.
we couldn't put that parade on. So thank you, Sean. Thank you, deputies that work. It's a real important thing for Pasadena to have that occur. So just keep it up.
All right, so with that, I don't have anything else to say. It's my 75th birthday today, so I survived a long time. I'm still alive and kicking. So
Would you tell us how you're feeling, please? and where you are with your recovery?
I'm fine.
Okay, that was a big one.
Thank you. Trustee Knox?
Thank you. With all these heartfelt comments this morning, I can bring us down by reminding you all it's property tax deadline on Monday. You get an extra day because it falls on a Sunday this year. I gave each of the trustees a set of utensils made out of sustainable bamboo with a QR code that directs you to our online payment website. I also put a bunch of them in the back of the room. I certainly invite staff and any guests here today to take one. I have a few extras with me just in case we run out. Don't call me Tuesday asking about any extensions or waivers or things like that. In regards to the trustees that are leaving the board, Mr. Santos, I've always admired. I found him to be especially helpful when I started on, and I could pulse you related to your opinion on things, which is always very helpful for my acclimation to the board. Help me understand, your perspective on this. You seem pretty well said, and I thought of it a little differently. That was always very helpful to me, and it went beyond just, no, I appreciate that you tend to have a labor-focused perspective, but then you and I were very similarly focused on other initiatives in other ways. So I always appreciated your due diligence, as was mentioned, certainly your intellect, related to the materials. So thank you for your service, and certainly miss your camaraderie and partnership here. Thank you. Mr. Bernstein, I would echo some of those same things, just again, in terms of acclimation, understanding your history, your knowledge, your expertise. But then you and I also, shared a similar role as board chairs, me of BOI, you of BOR, during probably the toughest COVID year of 2021, and just managing that virtual landscape, coordinating things. You had served as chair before, so that was really helpful to me too, just so I didn't do too many stupid things. So again, appreciate your expertise and your partnership as well. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knox. Mr. Harris?
Well, there's no way to top any of that. I agree with everyone's comments, particularly about staff, the promotions. They're wonderful. Our staff does such a great job. I had the honor when I first retired in 2010. I had been on the board, and then I was off the board because of my retirement. But I got hired back on a 120-day contract and got to work in disability retirement with Ricky and Tamara, and got to know them both well, and saw how good a job they both do day in and day out, what a challenge that is. I know many of you know I worked in return to work myself in the sheriff's department, and we used to kind of joke about working in those type of jobs. You don't count the years as regular years, they're kind of like dog years, because they're really tough. You've got to make some really hard decisions. And sometimes it just tears your heart out of your chest. But to see how much everyone there works so diligently. And so I'm happy about all the promotions, but particularly Ricky and Tamara's. And Mr. Kryman, I appreciate everything, you do to recognize staff, because they are what makes this whole place work. We know that. And so thank you for that. Alan and Herman, I will miss you both dearly. You both have brought so much to this board. It's interesting, both of your comments sort of made me think, one of the reasons we are such a good group and such a good organization is because we are able to bring disparate points of view, different backgrounds and experiences, and have enlightened discussions, disagree when we need to, but through the discussion, I think more times than not, we learn how we really don't have much, we have a lot in common, more than common than we have not in common. And it's too bad that the rest of our society can't figure this out, that, we need to quit yelling at each other and listen to one another. When we do that, like what happens on this board on a monthly basis, we find that we really have a whole lot in common, and that we can fulfill our obligations with the board, even despite those differences, and come with good decisions and protect the system and the members at the same time. So I appreciate the fact that you've both been willing to do that. Like I say, I'll miss you both. Your expertise is amazing. It's interesting. Herman talks about his experience worried about going to a law enforcement labor organization and how he was concerned about it. And I always kind of chuckle because I think I don't understand that, frankly, because, those of us in law enforcement and those of us in the public defender's office and the DA's office, we all should be working towards the same goal as we are here in LACERA, which is justice. And, that's what we're all about. We may come at it from a little different angle, but at the end of the day, it's all about justice. It's justice for our members, no matter what arena we're talking about. So I'm with you. Justice is what's important. Heath, I will be taking you up. Don't worry, the taxes will be doing the online thing. So thank you for making that possible again. That's really helpful. And Ron, I got to tell you, I only worked the Rose Parade for 19 years in my 35 years in the Sheriff's Department. And that's not because I was drafted 19 years. It's because I volunteered, because I love the Rose Parade. I'm with you. I'm kind of a Pasadena guy. And I just truly love the parade and was glad I got to work it for so many years. And I appreciate the volunteerism of all those who make that happen. This is going to be one heck of a game this year and a heck of a parade. Unless the only reason, or the main reason I'm not sitting there next to you today is because of the way I sound. I thought, here I'm not feeling too bad, but not feeling really great. And do I want to sit next to my friend who's had open heart surgery in the last 10 months and risk getting him sick? So I said, no, I'm staying home. So it's because of you I'm here today. But I appreciate the fact, happy birthday on your 75th birthday. And the fact that you're going to continue on with the board, because it's the experience of people like you and Alan and Herman and everybody in the board that makes this whole thing work, is because we do have a deep history and commitment to the organization, and that will never go away. But I just want to take a moment to thank Herman and Alan both for their service. It has been incredible. I wish you nothing but the best going forward. And I'll leave it at that while I still have a little bit of voice left. Oh, and Bob says hi.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. And Mr. Green?
Thanks. I was hoping to. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes.
There's a lot's been said. It's hard to follow that. I think Mr. Harris said that, but a couple things. Happy birthday, Les. Everyone. It becomes a point you earn, right? So happy birthday. I just want to acknowledge, Mr. Santos and Mr. Bernstein. As a new trustee, it was apparent pretty quickly when I went to Washington, D.C. with Mr. Santos that his passion and tenacity with focus on his fiduciary responsibility and what he was there to do. It's showing what right looked like, what something to emulate. And, it was already said, he's always been available. And his candor in the meetings, and asking the questions, and his encouragement, that's been amazing as an onboarding trustee. And Mr. Bernstein, what I noted about you is it's impressive, and is that you ask tough questions and sometimes unpopular questions, and it only demonstrates, your commitment to what should be done. And it also is to be noted, it's that it might not be the popular thing to ask. It might initiate a robust debate or discussion, but that doesn't waver you're compelling, you're compelled to do it for that sense of duty. And that's also what right looks like. And I'm gonna miss you guys. I look to all of my fellow trustees, as a team, and you guys are hanging up your jerseys. But I guess they'll go on the wall at the forum or whatnot, and so. But yeah, I'll miss you guys. I just finished with staff, and this is a good end of the year as a new trustee. Hearing the news of these ordinance positions and the work that's been done, and it's a good close to the year. And I'm really humbled to be a part of it. And I just want to say thank you to all, and I hope you all have a good holiday. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Popovich?
Well, first of all, it's off. And of course, I turned it off. First of all, I want to thank both Mr. Santos and Mr. Bernstein for their service. It's been a pleasure working with you. You certainly added a lot to this board and to the growth of LACERA and getting us where we're at today. So I thank you for that. And last, my birthday present to you is I'm not going to sing, but happy birthday. But I do, I wanted to take a moment because I have some sad news I wanted to share. And it's at the end of the meeting after we've had all this good news. But we lost one of our own on November 22nd, Alan Cochran, who was our division manager of member services, passed away. He was with LACERA for 7 years. Prior to that, he was with San Diego for 13 years. He passed away, and we miss him. He added a lot here. He was dedicated to members. He advocated very stridently for members and doing what was right. We used to meet every day at 5, just about every day at 5, to get caught up on what was going on with members throughout the day, and what we're working on. And so I personally miss those meetings even after he retired in April, but still I still miss those. But we wish his family the best. And if it's the pleasure of the board, I'd like to ask that we adjourn the meeting in his honor. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Kryman?
I think I said what I needed to say, but I do want to say that the one thing that I'm really looking forward to is listening to Mr. Bernstein sing perhaps the last swan song, maybe downstairs in the lobby, but
Could happen.
it could happen.
Yeah.
That would be worth the price of admission. Actually, you could probably make some money doing that. But
We could put it on the website.
Yeah, there you go. I just wanted to say thank you once again for your service to our members and to the organization. And I wanted to say happy birthday to you, Les. 75 years is, I can only hope, quite frankly. So happy birthday to you. So thank you.
Mr. Rice?
I'll simply add my thanks and appreciation to Trustee Bernstein and Trustee Santos. There's a lot behind that, but I'll leave it at that.
Chair Kia?
Perfect, thank you. So being the last to go, unfortunately, everything's already been said, but I will try and summarize, because I could sit here and talk on all of those subjects for another hour, but I won't. Number one, I'll start off with LACERA. I very much, Mr. Kryman, your leadership and pushing for the promotions and the movement, that is beautiful. It's good to see. There's still movement that I know is coming, and I know that this also opens up for other opportunities to come and join the organization. LACERA has always been a place where other county employees strive to go to and be, and it continues to be so. And I continue to support you 110% in that. I appreciate all that LACERA staff does. It's so hard for me when I'm talking to somebody about LACERA or my roles on LACERA to even capture the amount of expertise and dedication that our staff has, and to relay that, because there's just so much that goes to running this organization. I appreciate everybody's work on this, and I'm looking forward to continuing growth within the organization. Also, happy to hear about the mentorship program, and I like that, and we should definitely keep that going. I will say that it's going to be a massive loss to LACERA between Mr. Santos and Mr. Bernstein leaving. I don't even think that we could comprehend how much experience, leadership, dedication from this board that's going to be walking out the doors at the same time. So it's definitely going to be a different world coming in January. Change is inevitable. These happen. It's going to happen with all of us, but we're definitely going to feel it. Mr. Santos, I've so enjoyed our discussions. I've enjoyed our debates. I've just enjoyed just your dedication to this board. And everybody said it. You come into this room better prepared than anybody that I've even known. And it shines through on what you do. And that's because you're dedicated to the organization, to the members, and all of the things that you have done is going to continue to set the stage for future growth. So you set that solid ground that we're on, and we're going to continue to build on it. Mr. Bernstein, it's just been an amazing journey with you as well. You've been my wingman through the whole thing. We've had many leadership roles together. You're going to be a huge miss to me as well. And I hope you don't mind. I'll be calling you in Tennessee and venting about things that happen. But I won't do any closed session items anymore because you won't be able to hear them. But I appreciate everything that you've done with me as well on just being a good person to speak to and get thought processes from. So I appreciate both of your services, and you'll be greatly missed. I will also say happy birthday to Les. I already saw a chocolate birthday cake in there, so hopefully you like chocolate. I don't know if we have 75 candles, but we'll do our best. And a couple of other things. Mr. Knox, it's perfect timing because I was just going to thank you for the wooden spoon. Although I don't know if marketing spoon feeding the county with funds via the wooden spoons are the best marketing tool, but I guess it works. And in closing, we are going to, when we close and adjourn the meeting, we have two names that we're going to honor. We heard about the passing of Mr. Cochran, which is he did an amazing job while he was in member services, and I still remember him bringing us to the 21st century there. And then we also have a deputy who passed away who worked for me, Deputy Walter Flores from our Transit Services Bureau. He's a 25-year veteran. We were both custody assistants together 25 years ago. And he is just an amazing person that dedicated his life to the department and to the residents and the community. He was somebody who was going 24/7, always working, and just loved by everybody. He's a major, he died suddenly and is going to be a major loss to us at Transit Services. He had 18 years serving Metro and serving the Transit Services Bureau. So we are doing his services on Friday, and I'd also like to adjourn when we adjourn in the memory of Walter Flores. So both Alan Cochran and Walter Flores will be honored in our adjourning. Yes.
Quickly, if I could add to that list, Nicholas Cymbalin, who is the former chief executive office employee who was senselessly gunned down in San Dimas recently. He was the one that was the victim of the follow home murder. But he was in their IT section, and the Board of Supervisors adjourned in his memory yesterday. So I would like to do the same.
Thank you for letting me know. I know of his passing. I didn't know he worked for us. So
Yeah, very, very
we won't
tragic.
do to Nicholas
Yep.
as well. Okay.
Emergency item.
Oh, and then so that brings my good of the order to an end. But I do know that we do have an emergency item that we're going to need to vote on to add to the executive session. So I'll have Mr. Rice brief us.
Yes. The government code, the Brown Act, permits the board to take items that aren't on the agenda if they came to the board's attention after the agenda was posted, and if there's an immediate need for the board to address the issue. We do have an information security issue, a threat to public security closed session item to take up with you. It meets the requirements of the Brown Act. We need a 2/3 vote, a motion and a 2/3 vote in support of that.
I'll move to accept the item.
Moved and seconded, and let's do a roll call vote.
Mr. Bernstein? Ms. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Knox?
Aye.
Mr. Oakham?
Aye.
Mr. Robbins?
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez?
Aye.
Mr. Santos?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Okay, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna adjourn until 12 noon, which will give us a chance to use the restroom, grab our food. We're gonna come back in executive session for item B, because we do have attorneys on a time schedule. So we'll go into executive session, and then following that, we'll go into disability cases. So we'll remain in executive session. So we are adjourned until noon. Okay, thank you. We have a quorum in the house, and we have Mr. Harris, Mr. Green on. We're live streaming again. So we're returning to non-consent item C, which was tabled. This is the Chief Executive Officer compensation. And we will turn this over to Dr. Natoya, who will kick us off.
Sure, thank you. Good afternoon. We're here to, facilitate a discussion on a potential salary adjustment for Chief Executive Officer Santos Kryman based on the recently completed performance evaluation in executive session. There is one statement that needs to be read. Prior to taking final action, the legislative body shall orally report a summary of recommendation for a final action on salaries, salary schedules, or compensation paid in the form of fringe benefits of a local agency executive as defined in subdivision D of section 3511.1 during the open meeting in which the final action is to be taken. The paragraph shall not affect the public's right under California Public Records Act, Chapter 3.5, commencing with section 6250 of Division 7 of Title I to inspect or copy records created or received in the process of developing this recommendation. So after your vote, I will just restate the final percentage increase, should there be one, and the dollar amount.
Great, thank you. We'll open it up now for discussion. I have Mr. Santos in the queue.
Yes, thank you very much. Last board meeting, we received a memo dated October 25th, where it was announced the different increases that were provided for the employees. And I do understand that the collective bargaining agreement that SEIU has with some of the staff in LACERA calls for a 3% COLA increase. And in addition to that, the memo, again, dated October 25th, states that some people did receive a 5% increase, merit increase, in addition to the 3%. So in order to keep salaries consistent with each other, I move that we provide Mr. Kryman with a 3% COLA increase and a 5% merit increase. And they're all effective January 1st, November 1st, 12th?
October 1st?
October
1st,
sorry.
and then January 1st for the COLA.
Okay, so the merit increase is effective October 1st,
2023, yes.
2023, and the 3% COLA increase effective 1/1/2024.
Yes.
Okay, that's my motion.
I'll go ahead and second that motion. We'll now keep it open for discussion. Any discussion on the motion that's on the table or any questions?
Right.
I see none. So the motion has been moved and seconded. Let's please do a roll call vote.
Before the vote is
Yes.
taken, just as a point of order, and I think the trustees are aware of this, but the CEO's salaries adjustments are a matter of joint board decision. So the Board of Investments will be making its performance evaluation and acting on salary next week, and the two need to be in alignment.
Perfect. So we will we'll make the motion that this is so we can make this as our motion, and as long as they make it as their motion, then it's acceptable.
Yes, I think that probably it would be best to actually include in the motion that it's subject to the Board of Investments approval of similar increases.
And I can represent as a member of the Board of Investments that I will be making the same motion, but yes, subject to Board of Investments approval.
I accept the amendment. Okay.
So the recommendation of 5% would be a net total increase per month of $2,018. And the, excuse me, the COLA increase would be a net of $1,271, making Mr. Kremen's total compensation $43,664 per month.
Okay, that is the motion that is before us. So let's go ahead and please do a roll call vote.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Mr. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mr. Santos.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Okay. And that is the conclusion of our meeting. So I would like to adjourn in honor of Mr. Alan Cochran, of Deputy Walter Flores, and of Nicholas Sambolny. Okay, we have the OOC. You want to go right into it, right?
Ready.
So as soon as you get the thumbs up from IT, we have to end the meeting and go on to the next.